discussing how can a company use social networks and or virtual communities to increase brand loyalty. So first we're going to start about what is brand loyalty. Brand loyalty is the tendency of customers to keep coming back to buy your products. Right? It's the act of continuously buying a product range of products by the same company. Loyalty is extremely beneficial for businesses, and not only that, but also building and maintaining trusted relationships that leads to consumers coming back. That's very important. It's also a strategic tool for small companies because it's rather cheap to make, and also it has some of the benefits. As I said, it's used for customers to come back. It also increases revenues, and it can help with customer referrals. Also, by using communication channels to build loyalty, companies they use Facebook or Twitter by creating a community or dedicated users via social networks. This is, like I said, this is all available to smaller companies now. It's pretty good. Next one. So we're gonna feed into just show you guys a little bit about the basis of brand loyalty.
Well, brand loyalty is more important than ever in a social media enabled world, but loyalty isn't enough. What brands really need to strive for is advocacy. That's where consumers are actually spreading the message on behalf of the brand. Easier said than done because consumers quite often go to the dark side where they're moving against brands, and I would argue that most brands really need to focus on the negative sides of social media before they really try to hype up the positive. But the one thing we know is clear: nurturing loyalty is more important than ever because it has a much bigger impact in a social media enabled world. One of the best case studies out there is Zappos.com, one of the top retailers, and they really treat word of mouth as the #1 marketing tool. And one thing that's interesting about that experience is that they really invite consumers to provide feedback, even to complain in English or Spanish, vis-a-vis the phone or vis-a-vis the chat, just about any tool. And they know that that is the way you really nurture an emotional connection. You dignify their voice by allowing them to speak out, and that emotional connection is what really builds up the advocacy. And this is a very important point because nurturing advocacy is really hard. I mean, to some extent, you have to take everything you used to do well before and do it even better because the mistakes tend to be amplified in this environment.
So now next we're moving to what should businesses take into account before using social networks and or virtual communities. So basically, some of the things that we need to keep in mind when using this is that social media marketing is time intensive. It takes a lot of time to keep uploading, constantly keep uploading stuff. So that it takes a lot of time and resources. Also, the security part is also a possible problem. Something to keep in mind. As nowadays we're living in a technological era where people can easily hack accounts, and then this can have disastrous effects for a company if they fall into the wrong hands. Also, there's two models that we chose in order to show you guys how. Another thing to keep in mind when using this topic is that the social readiness model and the social technographics profile. Basically, the social readiness model is used for showing the steps that make a business a social business. This model also works for smaller businesses, and pretty much in this model it uses maturity phases, beginning from the listen phase, talk, energize, and empower. Now for the social technographics profile, this is the most used model to divide the social media users, and it was created to it was created to divide the social media users, and it was created by the research office Forrester Research. In this, the stakeholders are present in 7 groups, and they're making a model in a sort of ladder model where we speak about the initiatives. They do nothing. The spectators, for instance, they read blogs. The joiners, they visit social media sites. The collectors, they vote for websites online. Critics, they post reviews. Conversationalists, they post updates to Twitter. And creators, people that, for instance, create blogs. Right, so for the main assignment, we're gonna have everybody group up in your respective groups, and you guys are gonna have to be making a pitch for the best ways to build brand loyalty with social media for a given company. Right, for this, you guys have to write in the paper and use at least 3 different social media platforms. You guys are gonna have about 15 to 20 minutes to do this. And I don't know if Simon wants to, you want?
Yeah, so basically, your task is to, well, you can see the company that that you have. So you need to figure out how to build brand loyalty. You can look for everything on the internet and how to build brand loyalty for these specific companies. And you would need to use at least 3 different social media platforms.
Guys, class, we have chosen a winner for each one of the companies, one for Netflix and another one for GoPro. Now the winner of that, you guys are going to be picking which one of those two groups did best. Once we have a definite winner, that winner is going to get a prize. Some shoes we like to feed you guys.
Yeah, so basically we're going to pick out the best Netflix one and the best GoPro one, and it's your job to pick the winner out of these 2.
And we're going to have 1 or 2 people from that group come forward and then give the rest of the class the pitch.
So the two groups, this is the GoPro one, and this is the Netflix one. You guys come here.
Which way? Allemaal. Omgaan?
We said all of us.
So let's start with the GoPro.
Okay.
What do you guys have?
Well, we thought the channels Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook were the 3 channels to go for GoPro because of videos, YouTube, Instagram for the inspiration, and Facebook because of Facebook and a lot of followers. And we thought 3 important things you should share on the channels are sharing the customer experience to find the loyal customers and make customers loyal to your brand. And oh yeah, use. Make use of influencers or famous people on the channels, and maybe go on a trip with a lot of influencers and like a
Show how the product works.
Yeah.
What it does.
and create a lifestyle around GoPro, and the lifestyle is a part of the brand, is a part of the customer's lifestyle. I'm proud of it.
Now the next one.
Yes, this is Netflix. We had the idea to on Facebook to make people follow, like, and invite 10 friends to the Netflix page, so that they can win a Netflix gift box with mainly clothes, like a hat or a t-shirt, so they can promote the brand. For Instagram, we chose Instagram Live because it's quite popular and you get free advertising from Instagram, like Netflix is now online, so go watch it. And invite a famous Netflix actor to do a live Q&A with fans. It's nice. And then Twitter, we want to do a movie quiz of a Netflix original series. And the winner gets 1 year free subscription. And we had a little something for Christmas. So this Christmas, make sure to Netflix and chill.
Yes. So guys, we need you now to vote for whichever you think is best. So who thinks that the GoPro one is the best?
Raise your hands all the way up, all the way up.
GoPro one, lift your hands. Okay? That's gonna be a bit tight.
40,
Who thinks that the Netflix ideas are the best?
No.
Oh, that's a tough choice. Maybe split So the winner is Netflix, obviously, because they have the best ideas. Congratulations. All of you, thanks to everyone who did the effort.